Is this a purely Walmart story? Meaning, are we looking at this and saying, Doug McMillon, that management team, they've nailed the operations of this? Or do you think this actually says something larger about the rest of our economy at a time when we're having some big questions about it?
It's not a Macy's.
Well, the Walmart shopper demonstrates middle and a little bit lower, but let's not forget that about a third of Walmart shoppers make over $100,000 a year. So it's not what it used to be. It is a good cross-section, and I think it speaks to the health of the consumer, which I think, anyway, is somewhat divorced from some of the other things that we're seeing. The consumer is still healthy. The consumer is still healthy, and the markets are in flux. A lot of things are happening. I know you had Mark Zandi on yesterday, and, you know, Mark painted a picture, but the consumer itself, or themselves, is still spending. I mean, we're still seeing
what is it? They've been bifurcated for a while. I mean, Target and Walmart have been doing, and some of the other ones have just been abysmal.
Yeah. But the question is whether the consumer is a leading or lagging indicator. I was going to ask you, what are the numbers that you look at these days, given these sirens that are going off between, you know, the 2 and the 10-year and everything else that's happening in the market in your world?
Consumer confidence is critical from where I sit. If the consumer feels good, and if the University of Michigan and Conference Board, if those numbers are solid, then that tells me the consumer is still out there and still spending. I look a lot at car sales. I cover the auto retail sector as well, and when those are booming, it's a sign of consumer confidence, but B, it's also a sign that maybe the consumer doesn't have as much money to spend other places. Now that car sales are starting to contract a little bit, that frees up some spendability for the consumer. And to Joe's point, we are seeing a distinct bifurcation in retail. I mean, what we saw yesterday, what we'll continue to see over the next several days with Target reporting and Best Buy reporting, Costco reported some sales numbers, is the guys at the top of the food chain are just feasting on the guys at the bottom of the food chain. So, and that's not going anywhere.
And you have to have a good web presence.
Yes,
strategy
absolutely.
for internet.
Walmart, just point for point, helps the Dow.
Yeah.
But not to this extent. The Dow's only down 43 points right now. So Walmart's up 5 or 6. So 6 times 7 is 43 points,
so
and that's come back
45 points somewhere.
Just in better tone, really.
Well, because look, if you can say we can survive any challenge that's out there, that's why
when I was hearing it, I was like, that's why I looked over at you when the demons come at night, like last night. Were you worried about Walmart, or you knew it was going to be a great quarter?
No, I continue to believe that Walmart will set the tone.
So nothing
retail.
Surprised you about what they said? No, absolutely
nothing.
How come you looked? I looked over at you and I saw you white. I saw you.
One of my eyes is bothering me. But I think that what we're seeing is the margin expansion is the thing that really hit me. Because
what was the margin expansion?
5 and change. Courtney,
yeah, I mean the operating income
in the U.S.
We have 4%.
Yeah.
So 4%, even with the onslaught from Amazon
and
Prime.
Walmart said that was better than they had expected.
Can I ask a separate question? How much do you take away from this new guidance? And the reason I ask is because what is the cost for Walmart in terms of credibility? And now you're going to think I'm a cynic. For them to come out and say this, and if, dare I say, the tariffs get put on, it's terrible, I would think you would have a very easy time of turning around and saying, you know what? We thought that this is where the world was headed, but actually it got so much worse, and obviously the stock would get hit. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure it would be a bad excuse.
Yeah, but all they can do is tell us what they see based on, like they even said, from Tuesday, and things can change on a day-by-day basis.
That is a very smart and savvy management team, and they are not going to overpromise and underdeliver. They've seen through this. The supply chain, they source a lot overseas. But they've done a great job over the years of diversifying that supply chain to hedge almost any possible occurrence in the markets and with disruptions and all that kind of stuff. This is a company, and I think I've said this before, I've covered these guys for 16 and a half years now. This is as good as it's ever been.
You would think, remember Tom Friedman said that China did it through, what do you say, tennis shoes?
3 T's.
But they were all things that are sold at Walmart. Yeah. If anyone was sensitive to this, you would think it would be Walmart because they get all the cheap stuff from China to sell. But is it because of the yuan? I mean, have they really... has China made it possible?
I mean, they've also said that their goal is to be the low-price leader. So if everybody's prices are up and Walmart's prices are up on some items, they're still going to be the low-price leader.
What Charlie just said concerns me a little bit if we're taking too much out of this. You just said they're the best at this. They have diversified. does that mean everybody else is going to be able to sidestep some of these issues the same way, or is it going to be more impactful on somebody who doesn't
I'm going to flip to a different retailer, and I'll use Best Buy as an example. If you want to buy a TV, Best Buy has a TV to sell you because they have the broadest selection sourced from multiple countries. Walmart's in the same boat. They have as broad a selection, obviously they're not Neiman Marcus, but in their cohort, they have the broadest selection out there sourced from multiple places. So if you want something, say tariffs hit in a big way, they're implemented and they're awful. Walmart will still have a product that you'll be able to buy that isn't tariff impacted, so they won't have to rely so heavily on the muscle they can flex with vendors for the vendors to eat some of the price increases that would emanate from a tariff.
Well, to what extent is Walmart going to try to pass it on as opposed to eating it?
In the past, they've leaned on the vendors as heavily as possible to avoid having to pass it on to the consumer.
And they'll pivot. They'll just source it somewhere else.
But if Walmart has to pass it on to the consumer, that means everybody else is doing it in a bigger way, and Walmart will still come out in really good shape, in my view.
Well, the Dow's much better. It's down 30, but I've seen days like this where you get something like that. You see one data point, and everything else ends up down anyway. And the 6 or 7 points of Walmart doesn't help the overall average.
It's amazing to see a Dow component at Walmart that big.
Are you less bleak for Bleakley today, or you're still? Did Walmart help at all for your?
I almost look at Walmart as a consumer non-durable in a sense. I mean, that's how I think the market perceives. You buy Procter & Gamble, you buy Coke, and you buy Walmart.
It's a staple.
Okay, so it doesn't help.
A lot of food.
Doesn't help your mood.
I mean, it's a phenomenal company that put up good numbers.
But it doesn't change your overall view on whether we're in a downturn.
The consumer is the best part of the U.S. economy, and I think those numbers reflect it.